now. Divided by cheddar, we gotta get better. United together, we tighter than ever now. Forgotten, forsaken, forever mistreated, debated, disputed, but never defeated. No hate, no more venom, we straight with the rhythm. We celebrate rhythm, we elevate rhythm. The beautiful rhythm, the powerful rhythm. We chant to the rhythm, we dance to the rhythm. The beautiful rhythm, the powerful rhythm. We chant to the rhythm, we dance to the rhythm. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. This is a rhythm, a warrior's rhythm, victorious rhythm, a glorious rhythm. Yahoo, Yahoo, you hear it, you feel it, it's there in your spirit, it's there in the lyric. Don't ever compare it. Yahoo, don't ever compare it. Yahoo, don't ever compare it. The beat of the cradle, defeating the labels, the people are able to eat at the table. Yahoo, Yahoo, divided by cheddar, we gotta get better. United together, we tighter than ever. Yahoo, Yahoo, forgotten, forsaken, forever mistreated, debated, disputed, but never defeated. No hate, no more venom, we straight with the rhythm. We celebrate rhythm, we elevate rhythm. The beautiful rhythm, the powerful rhythm. We chant to the rhythm, we dance to the rhythm. The beautiful rhythm, the powerful rhythm. We chant to the rhythm, we dance to the rhythm. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
And welcome to another exciting conversation right here. We're discussing local environmental activism in the city of Philadelphia as part of WURD's, WURD's second annual EcoWord Environmental Justice Summit. I'm Brother Shamari. I have the privilege of being with you for the next hour from 2 to 3 as we discuss and take a lens of this wide-ranging conversation. But our focus is going to be right here in our city, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, they say. I'm pleased to be joined by several frontline, I'll call them activists, warriors, freedom fighters, advocates, doing major work in and around the city of Philadelphia. And I'm not going to read through bios. I'm not going to, I'm going to let them introduce themselves on their terms. So what I want each of you to do, and, let's establish our ground rules now. I know a lot of you are powerful, and we just want to share space in a very productive way over this next hour so that our listening audience can get as much from the dialogue as possible. So starting out, I just want each of you to take about 3 minutes, and I have two things I want you to do in that time. Introduce yourself on your terms, the work that you're doing, and get our people, listening audience familiar. But I want you to define for me and for our conversation what your vision of environmental justice and environmental sovereignty actually looks like. Because we use the term, but I'm a visionary kind of guy. I like to see what we're actually striving for and looking to get to. Because oftentimes, we might have different conceptions of that. So when we talk about, or you talk about environmental justice or environmental sovereignty in your work, and particularly looking at Philadelphia, I really want us to be very myopic in our conversation. Everybody has a right and have gone global and regional and national. But our topic right now is local activism right here in Philadelphia. And, with gentrification, toxic school environments, toxic neighborhoods, how do we begin to garner an interest and a duty, if you will, obligation amongst Black people who live here and around here? Let's say the Philadelphia region, because I know I don't want to discount the work that's going on in Chester and Delaware County and other places. So this is a regional conversation. So for us in this region, number one, who are you? What have you done? What's your work in this space? But then also, what's the vision of environmental justice and environmental sovereignty? So I'm going to start I see Julian Mayfield. Let's start with you. Hi, how are you? Welcome to our show. I'm going to need you all to unmute in order to be heard. I have no control, so I'm going to need you to unmute yourself.
These things. I have to get up into this century. Hello, everybody. Hello, brother. Been
How
a
you doing?
minute.
How you been?
You just unfurled a whole lot of issues for an hour. I'm doing well, thank God. Trying to be safe, COVID safe, and everything else safe. I'm Julian Mayfield. I'm the chair of Chester Residents Concerned for Quality Living in Chester, PA. We are a local group, but we're far-reaching because this is a far-reaching issue. I personally believe that it's the most, outside of COVID, the most threatening issue facing communities of color, because it reaches into every aspect of our lives, particularly our children and our elderly people. That's our whole nucleus. That's who we are. So we have been battling specifically waste polluting facilities in Chester since 1992. We've been successful in shutting down eight or nine of them, and countless permits we've had withdrawn that don't even want to come to Chester no more because they realized that there was a fight coming. And in doing that, we've also tried to reach out to other communities of color who are also dealing with the same issue. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Cancer Alley, I've been to Florida, I've been pretty much everywhere except for the Midwest areas where we're dealing with these type of issues. Visionary, I see environmental justice as a way to ensure our survival. Because basically right now as a people, and it's going on for many years. I used to think that when I was growing up, that there was a cancer gene in my family because we had lost so many people to cancer. I lost my mother, I lost a brother, I lost my baby sister, aunts, uncles, cousins. I didn't realize that when I was growing up that we actually lived in between two tracks of CSX trains. And when the trains would come down the tracks, we played on the tracks. That was our playground. They would leave material that used to leak out of the tank cars on the tracks. Sometimes it'd be yellow. If you got the blue, that was real special. It would be green. It would be white mainly. We used to put it in bags and balloons and throw it on each other. We had no idea at the time that we were actually playing in chemicals because there was no environmental justice. There was no education that was going around saying, hey, that stuff is dangerous. And we weren't educated on purpose, so we don't know about it. We just knew that we were redlined into this area. Most communities of colors, it's going to be near the tracks. Bottom line, you're going to be in the track area somewhere. So I never knew that that's what we were playing with. And when I grew up, and I'm like, oh my God, we've been exposed to all types of things. We got lead in our air. We got lead coming out of pipes that's in our houses. And we expect for our children to be educated. But despite it all, we've been able to survive and do more than survive, but become masters of their own technology and their science to let them know, hey, now we know what you're doing to us.
Right.
We know.
Great.
We're aware. We woke for real now.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm going by what I see on the screen as far as who's here. So I see O. So I would take it from there and introduce yourself. And again, your vision for what environmental justice or environmental sovereignty looks like for you and the organization that you work with.
Yes, so I work with the organization Philly Thrive, the Right to Breathe campaign. And I would say sovereignty is the right to breathe. Especially at a time where many of our brothers and sisters are screaming out, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And so the first and primary of sovereignty is that my temple is treated as sacred.
Wow.
And if you're not treating my body as if it is sacred, then you have interrupted my sovereignty.
Mm.
And so the first and primary for Philly Thrive was to make sure that our communities had clean air. Because if you can't breathe, trust me, you ain't going to be doing nothing else.
Yes.
You're not going to be doing nothing if you
I
can't
should.
breathe. That's number one. So the right to breathe is definitely situated in clean air, but many of the principles that we work with within our organization around clean air is reclaiming each other, is reclaiming each other. And so what that meant pre-COVID was door knocking. It was door knocking, reaching out to the community, crossing racial lines, economic lines, educational lines, religious lines, cross lines, just cross them and reach out to each other and say, unless we figure out how to work together, we're just going to go down.
Yes.
Just going down, right? Until we figure out how to work together. So the primary for sovereignty for Philly Thrive, the organization, first and foremost, is the right to breathe. And that's
Right.
about clean air. What we did there, by God's grace, and I'm a Quaker, and so I tend to speak from the spiritual context, but by God's grace, what we were able to do is work together with other environmental organizations, work with politicians, work with the community, and educate to the poisons and the toxins, actually educate each other, to reclaim and educate. And the education was rooted in health, because after breathing, right, you need your health.
Yes.
And so a part of the conversation for us was health over, health and safety over profit.
So what I want to do right there, because I want to come back and after the break, I'm going to give each of you time to talk about your organization and your work in more detail. But before we go to break, I do want Tommy Joshua to introduce himself and also just your vision of environmental justice and sovereignty to frame our conversation.
Okay, thank you, Brother Shamari, and peace to the fellow folks. Yeah, I'm happy to be here with WURD. My name is Brother Tommy Joshua. I'm the founder and executive director of the Philly Peace Park. We have community control, African American controlled land in North Philly and West Philly. And for me, environmental justice is linked with human rights. So, you know, one of the big catchphrases right now in the field is the social determinants of health, right? And these are the many different things that determines health outcomes. Self-determination of our communities, to me, is the best way that we can have environmental justice, meaning that we must have power. Without power in our hands as African Americans, where we live at, we will have no way of determining the health outcomes of the community. In fact, Shamari, we need nothing short of a revolution to bring and usher in environmental justice. And that would mean that Black people here in North America, here in Philadelphia, will have the economic power, the control over their own education, the ability to create jobs, the abilities to grow food, the ability to defend our legitimate interests from threats inside and out. So environmental justice must be linked up with a great movement for self-determination of Black people.
So we're going into commercial break. When we come back, I want each of you to pick it up, and I'll start with you, Tommy. You know, just pick up now, based on that vision, now give us some insights as local residents of this Delaware Valley, Philadelphia region, the work that you're doing and how, you know, a call for people to weigh in. I think the framing question for me is, you know, the question is always why environmental or climate change is not seen as a Black issue. And I really want to talk about that for real, because for people who don't have stewardship over our own bodies, let alone the land at this point in time in the context of oppression we live in, you would think that this issue around environmental justice and sovereignty would be at the forefront of Black organizing movements, but somehow it seems to be on the periphery and on the margins. And I want us to begin to explore how we recenter and reframe this such that it becomes the essential thing that Black people understand if it's about our breathing, our bodies, and our environment. So how do we begin to pivot a little bit so that this becomes our issue in totality? This is, again, the second WURD Environmental Justice Summit. In recognition of Indigenous Peoples Day, WURD is hosting an Environmental Justice Summit to explore topics at the intersection of Black and Indigenous rights, income, and the environment. This day-long multimedia virtual event will also bring together artists, thought leaders, environmental justice advocates for groundbreaking conversations about climate change, land reclamation, water quality, and how it all converges in the Philadelphia region and beyond. A 2016 study published in the scientific journal Environmental Research Letters found a consistent pattern of a 30-year-long period of placing hazardous waste facilities in neighborhoods where poor people and people of color, and I will say Black people, live. In Philly and around Philly, we are facing this fact firsthand in neighborhoods like Nicetown, Germantown, Chester, Lower East Falls, and with the impending SEPTA natural gas plant. So now we've convened a panel of our local environmental activists from Philadelphia and this region who are pushing the boundaries of how we educate, inform, and activate Black communities. And we will continue this conversation after these messages.
Hey, Mama, you calling me for a change? You and Daddy all right?
We're fine. Can't your mama call and check on her babies and get a little advice?
You know you can. What do you need help with?
Well, despite COVID-19, you know I'm not letting anything stop your father and I from voting this year. But we're here in Pennsylvania. Should we go to our precinct as usual? What's the best way?
You mean I get to be Mama for a minute? All you have to do is go to aarp.org/election 2020.
That's my favorite site, and they have a lot of information about the pandemic.
You only text me the website 3 times, but they have all the reliable, up-to-date voting information for voters 50 plus in every state. Want me to text it to you?
Girl, I know. It's aarp.org/election 2020.
Well, me being your mama didn't last long.
That's 'cause I'll always be your mama.
Yes, ma'am.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a 2-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox, no postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
And welcome back to our conversation. Join us Tuesday. I think that's tomorrow, y'all. Tuesday, October 13th, as WURD welcomes back beloved host Nick Taliaferro for the new Drive Time show, Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Tune in every Monday through Thursday from 4 to 7 p.m. for the best in conversation and contemplation. The show will feature Nick's unique brand of wit, wisdom, and humor as he talks with authors, experts, newsmakers, and you. Check out Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro starting this Tuesday, October 13th. Yep, I just checked my calendar. That is tomorrow. And keep your dial locked so you don't miss Sincerely Sarita at her new time, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Sarita's new show, Save Space with Sincerely Sarita, will feature insightful, in-depth interviews with the most interesting voices in Philly and beyond. Hey, she must be interviewing me then. She will bring a spirit of clarity and openness to save space for intergenerational dialogue and healing. So spend your evenings with Nick and Sarita beginning October 13th, exclusively on WURD Radio 96.1 FM and 900 AM. WURD, streaming live also at WURDradio.com or the WURD Radio app. And as always, you can catch us live on Facebook Live and WURD Radio. We're back for our continuing conversation. EcoWord Environmental Justice Summit, by the way, is produced in collaboration with Bartram's Garden and from the Source Reporting Collaborative, and is supported by PICO, the Watershed Education Alliance, the LiveFest Institute, and the William Penn Foundation. Be sure to tune in Monday all day long today as we talk about economic justice and sovereignty in our Philadelphia region and Delaware Valley area. So before we went to break, each of you shared with us your vision of environmental justice and sovereignty, your organization's vision of that. Now, I want each of you to take some time and tell us specifically, currently, how is your organization pushing towards the vision that you've established? And also how people who are listening right now, who this issue might not have been important to or centered to, how do they begin to understand its importance, its urgency, in my opinion, and begin to weigh in by supporting your organization? So let's start with you, Tommy.
Okay, thank you, Brother Shamar. Well, you know, as I mentioned before with the Philly Peace Park, our focus is definitely the community, the Black community. And what we are thinking about is how can we transform these conditions, right? Essentially, the neighborhoods that we live in are graveyards, meaning that they are places where we experience poor health. It's places where we are getting shot. It's places where we are dehumanized in so many ways. We believe that the vacant land, the space inside of our community can provide opportunities for us to bring life, bring Black life to the neighborhoods. So what we will always encourage neighbors is to get out into your community and actually reclaim these spaces that's in your neighborhood. For example, one of the things that we can do to make an impact upon our community is growing fresh food. We can start community gardens. These gardens can be a source of nutrition for the neighborhood, but can also be a basis for economics because we can grow food and sell it. Another thing that we can do inside of our communities to address the situation is we can actually start liberation schools. We can actually pull together and engage educators right on the same land that you're growing this food on. You can also engage educators to come and actually teach Black boys and girls. Another thing we can do in this very same land that's in the community is we can have Black marketplaces. We can encourage for pop-up shops. All of this that I just mentioned, growing food, selling food, engaging educators to bring education programs, starting markets, Black markets. These are things that the Philly Peace Park are currently doing right now in West Philly and in North Philly. And if anybody would like to get more involved, you can come out to 22nd and Jefferson every Sunday, or you can come out to 51st and Wolusin, which is the site of the West Philly Peace Park, and come get involved. So I would say that, Brother Shamari, we must bring Black life back to the neighborhood. We must activate a future for ourselves on the land inside the community.
Appreciate that, Brother Tommy, for sharing. Is O correct? Am I okay? Great. O.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Pretty much, Philly Thrive is very focused in the Grays Ferry area. And at this point in time, we're focused on the reconstruction of the oil refinery, the 154-year-old oil refinery that pretty much was killing everybody with cancer and asthma and things of that nature. And so the community is establishing a relationship with Hilco, and Hilco will be having a town hall this coming Wednesday. So you can get on Philly Thrive's Facebook page to see when that is, but it's this coming Wednesday at 7 p.m. Hilco will be having a community event, and we're encouraging people to show up because what we are requesting, or in many ways demanding, is that it's a full cleanup, that you don't just pave over the land, that you actually clean it up. And what that entails is jobs. We are wanting to make sure that our community, that the community that has been hit the hardest, gets first opportunity for both education and jobs to be able to tend to refurbishing the land, cleaning up the land, and also beautifying the land. So we're talking major job transformation at that level. But in order for that to happen, the community has to come out and participate in the town halls because their voice does matter. And unfortunately, we are a people who have been marginalized for so long that we feel like, you know, nobody's going to listen. Nobody's going to listen. It's going to be business as usual. But what we're saying at Philly Thrive is we shut down a 150-year-old oil refinery in which people said it would never happen, and we did it. And so that's the inspiration that we're bringing forward at this time.
Appreciate that. Ms. Uline?
Yes. I want to give my perspective on something. And I think that it is a hindrance to us sometimes as a people. These fights are not regional. They are attacking us as a people, as our right to exist and survive, be happy, be educated. Your fight in Southwest is our fight in Chester. Mm-hmm. The fight they have in Louisiana is our fight in Chester. The fight they had in Harrisburg is my fight in Chester. Mm-hmm. It's the same fight. Mm-hmm. Many times it's the same players, the same polluters who have made a decision that we don't matter. We don't care what they think. We know that we matter to us. You matter to me, Brother Shamari. I will suit up, armor up, and we'll be on our way. You matter to me, O. And until we start thinking like that, these are not little teeny, oh, this is my patch of land. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to fight for it. We have to fight for our right as a people to live, to give our kids, I'm about to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Well, if you poison our children to the point where they can't learn, how does that happen? So we got to be on the front line. We got to be on the front line, the back line, the sideline. There should be no issue that we as a people are not attacking. If you hit one of us, 10 of us going to hit you back. And it has to be that way. So even though we are in Chester, what you do in Philadelphia impacts us because you send trash to Chester. We get trash from Chestnut Hill, Rochester, New York, Puerto Rico. Yet, for some reason, people think that this is a regional, this is a city fight. No, it's not either. It's everybody's trash. It should be everybody's responsibility and everybody's fight because there's no one pipeline for air that comes to Chester. What I breathe, you breathe also. Eventually, you're going to get it.
So can we stay in this space for a while? Because it really is part of the way this is talked about, and it's framed climate change. And it's framed as if Black people are on the sidelines of the climate change environmental conversation. But it's very clear that when we talk about, you know, this issue being the source of our breath, the control of our temple, the control of our ecology, and eco just means village or habitat, right? That's the essence of humanity. Like when that's taken away and threatened, it would seem like the people who are most challenged by that would be at the forefront of maintaining their humanity. And yet the way the issue is framed, we're on the margins. How do we fix those scales? That just seems unbalanced. And I don't know if it's a messaging issue, if it's that we don't value our own humanity enough to know that this is a fight worthy of the level that you're talking about. Ms. Zulene, how do we begin to really get this as something that all of our people understand at a local and global level is really at the heart of our humanity and our right to live and breathe and be?
All right, let me, this is the way that I see it. And there has been a collective marketing issue, effort to make sure that we don't have an association with the environment. When we think of environments, we think of redwood trees and boogaloo wells, and you got to get in your car and drive off somewhere, okay? Our environment is concrete, buses, trees, and parks. That's our environment. And we have been taught in a sly kind of way that that's not really important. Why isn't it that the main true environmental groups aren't in on these issues? The ones that have millions and millions of dollars in their coffers, that do canvassing on environmental justice issues, but they're not in our communities. Why aren't they in our communities trying to educate us? They've been at this much, much longer than we have. So there's an educational gap, number one. Then there's a comfort gap. We don't have a lot of stay-at-home housewives. We working folk, okay? When we on our 8 to 5 job, 15, 16 hours a day, we don't have the comfort of sitting home and going to a meeting or a city council meeting because we working 2 and 3 jobs.
Okay.
Okay. So there are many barriers to what it is that we have to do. But the first barrier is that we have to think of our environment as valued.
Right. Thank you for
We're
that.
valued. My children, the kids, and I got 1,000 of them in Chester. They are of value. We don't know who is who, but damn it, they should be given a chance to grow up. You can't tell us not to have behavioral problems when you pump in all these chemicals, arsenic, cadmium, lead, particulate matter into our air. Do you wonder why we acting crazy?
So over time, I want you to weigh in before we go to our next commercial. And trust me, we all know that an hour is never enough. So we always promise we're going to continue the conversation. But I do want to hear O and or Tommy weigh in before commercial.
Yeah, real quick. For me, the truth of the matter is you can't measure my value. That's the ultimate lie. That we can measure the value of a man. That we can measure the value of a child, and that we can measure the value of a woman. You can't measure the value. That's the greatest lie. So that's number one. Number two, we are a traumatized people. And a traumatized people have a traumatized mind. It literally shifts the architectural design of our brain. And so we are in a battlefield of hurt people. Unfortunately, hurt people. And traumatized minds that have not been healed will traumatize other minds. So a large part of the work is healing, because we keep hurting ourselves and each other. And so when we put healing primary, there will be a shift. But I think the other part is we have to recognize you can't really measure the value of a Black person. You can't measure our value. That was a lie. And that started with slavery. When they put us on the auction table, when they put us on the auction and auctioned us off.
So what I want to do, and again, we can never do justice to this conversation in an hour or a day, but it's definitely probably to me one of the most important things we need to undertake as a collective group of people. So when we come back from commercial break, I want to start with you, Tommy, since I know you wanted to weigh in. I want to start with you, make sure you answer that question, but then also let people again know how to reach out and support the Peace Park. And then I'm going to come to each of you and just have you close with some final words. And I particularly want you to appeal to, some people say young people need to become more involved in this work. If that's the case, I want you to appeal to that constituency, or whatever constituency in our Black collective that you most want to speak to pull in and say, hey, this needs to become more important to you. We need you with us. I want you to make your appeal to them as we close out our segment discussing local activism on the environmental justice, environmental sovereignty front. This is part of our second WURD Environmental Justice Summit, and we're joined by Tommy, O, and Julian today as we continue our conversation immediately after these messages.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the experience.
I'm still in shock 3 or 4 years later that we're in this position now. Our democracy is at a pivotal point.
From the top, we don't trust our government. We see the trouble we're in economically. We've got 170,000 Americans dead, and yet this president will do anything he can to make it seem like things are better than they are.
I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln.
It's our responsibility. If we don't lead that effort to make things better, we can't ask other people to do it. There is no good reason not to vote.
Right, we need to have individuals that are in office like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
They are our best shot to take us forward.
And that's what makes me incredibly hopeful, but we really do have to work for this thing.
To the thousands who did not vote, we need you to show up for our future and for our country.
You cannot sit on the sidelines. You got to get in the game.
Paid for by Biden for president.
At PICO, we know one thing is certain. Times have changed. From kitchen classrooms to couch conference calls, searching for a new job, or new ways to keep your family connected. These changes have become a part of our reality. That's why our teams are working 24/7 to meet the needs of our communities. So no matter how much things change, you can depend on PICO to be there with the energy and help you need to power through. Learn more at pico.com.
Support for WURD comes from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. You see them every day, in your house, in your neighborhood. They have been with you your whole life, providing comfort, reducing stress, cleaning your water. The plants and gardens around us have enormous impact in our lives. At PHS, we know a seed is more than a plant. Gardening is more than a hobby. That's why PHS invites you to join with them. Plant with purpose. Build healthier communities. Grow together. Learn more at phsonline.org/together.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. The school year is underway, but never before has that experience come in so many shapes and sizes. Is the education of your child being left to a smattering of clumsy in-person and virtual instruction? The COVID-19 crisis has created a market for untested virtual teaching models lacking true credibility. Maybe it's time to reconsider and exercise your choice. Maybe it's time to check out Commonwealth Charter Academy. Here are the benefits to your family. 1, an online education provided at no cost to you, complete with laptop, headset, and help with internet access. 2, partnership with the market leader in cyber education with a nearly 20-year track record of world-class learning. And 3, delivery of a safe, reliable, and comfortable education experience over the internet directly to the confines of your living room. Visit ccaeducate.me today and discover the gold standard of cyber education. That's ccaeducate.me.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
And welcome back to our day-long focus on EcoWord, environmental justice. We're having a summit. Our conversation in this 2 o'clock hour has been focused on the local side, local activism around this issue in the Philadelphia region and beyond. Also, as part of this, don't miss the special opportunity to join or renew your 4WURD membership today and receive a free copy of this month's Black Words Book Club selection, a wonderful book by Harriet Washington entitled A Terrible Thing to Waste, Environmental Racism and Its Assault on the American Mind. So join or renew today at WURDradio.com/4WURD. That's 4, FORWURD. I invite everybody back to our final segment of this hour's conversation focused on local activism. But don't forget, this is a day-long conversation all the way up until the 7 o'clock hour, particularly and strictly focused on environmental justice and environmental sovereignty. So before we went to commercial break, I asked each of you to give us a final appeal. What's this constituency within our Black collective that you feel most needs to be appealed to and step up and join and understand the importance, the urgency, the priority of environmental justice and environmental sovereignty? So I want to start with you, Tommy.
This has been a great conversation. And I want to appeal to 2 groups. I want to appeal squarely to every Black person that's listening right now. And I want you to understand that you have an obligation, you have an absolute duty to come outside, take a look around, and get to work transforming our communities. That's what I need you to do. And I need you to understand that there is no other alternative than us raising up with inside of our communities a great movement for self-determination. We must have democracy inside the Black community. There is no other way. I want you to take a good look at your children. And I need you to understand that unless we rise up in our neighborhoods, unless we take control over our economics, our political process, there's no future for those children. And we say at the North Philly Peace Park that the land, the vacant land that's within our community is a wonderful starting place. Yes, I know that this land is supposed to be controlled by A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Don't believe that. Don't believe that. You have a right to the land in your community so that you can grow food, so that you can build, so that you can have an economic life. The next person I want to appeal to is I want to appeal to the Black politician, and I want to say shame on you. Look at your neighborhood, look at your constituents. Why is it that decade after decade, the Black community continue to be such a devastated place? If any Black politician want to earn his weight and be respectable and to come among us, he must fight, she must fight for protection of the Black community against this vicious gentrification. Black politicians, we need a Black Homestead Act. In every neighborhood that's underserved, land, property should be made available to the Black community to start to develop it ourselves. So I really would like to end on that tip. Thank you so much for having me on this conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, folks.
And how to reach out real quick?
You can reach out, you can check us out on social media at North Philly Peace Park or West Philly Peace Park. You can also visit us, our website at www.phillypeacepark.org. Also, too, you can come out and join us on Sundays at 22nd and Jefferson, and also at 51st and Wyalusing in West Philly.
What time Sundays, real quick?
Oh, from 11 to 4.
All right, peace.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yes, I too would say two groups. I also would say our black politicians, because they are wielding a level of power that they need to figure out how to work that power in a way that uplifts their brothers and sisters. And who I would like to place that next to is the youth. And I would like to see the politicians more engaged with the youth so that the youth can figure out how to utilize that power in such a way. How you can reach Philly Thrive, because we really are hoping that people will come out to this coming Wednesday at 7 p.m. Hilco is having a town hall. We want people to come out and get their voices. You can find that information on the Philly Thrive Facebook page and or our website. That particular conversation with Hilco is happening at 7 p.m. this coming Wednesday. And so we would love to have you participate, and you can see everything that Philly Thrive is doing on our Facebook page.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Julian, you have the final words.
Okay. I want to remind people that everything we do, there are things that we can do in the Black community, but then there are powers that be that have pressures on our community. And just because they have pressures or they make decisions that impact our community, that does not mean that we won't hold them. And they must be held accountable. They must be held accountable to their own standards. What they allow to happen in Chester should also happen in Chestnut Hill or in Lower Merion. That's when we have equality. They will tell you that, oh, these things are great, they're wonderful, they're going to be jobs for your community. And for my community, we always need jobs, but there's a selective thing. We don't need a job where we got to work 5 of them in order to pay rent. We need family-sustaining jobs. These companies don't pay like that. And we will not be prostituted for pollution. We're not going to let the academias, the universities, prostitute our communities either. with studies. You wouldn't believe the amount of money that's being given to these universities for studying our communities, studying the poverty and the pollution and the politics. The amount of money that they're giving to redevelopments, we can't even get money for people to fund, to put a new roof on their house. Why? Because we need to hold these politicians, we need to hold the regulatory agencies, all of these people accountable. But we also need to hold these traditional environmental groups accountable. When we first had this issue, my mind was, oh, I'm going to write Greenpeace, I'm going to write Clean Air Council, the Clean Water people, I'm going to raise a cavalry. Not realizing we are the cavalry. Ain't nobody coming in our community to help us. It's on us. And we can do it. We've always done it. And we will always do it. But we all have to pull together. And like I said, there is no supporting one without the support of another. And the issue of COVID, it has taught us. It's brought us closer together than ever. Because now we can have these Zoom meetings. I don't have to ride to North Philadelphia for half an hour for a 10-minute meeting. I can Zoom in. So this is going to be a powerful tool for us. And our constituency has always been our youth. We have to train our new leaders, because somewhere in there, from the civil rights movement to now, came the me era. And we've lost it as a people. We have to get back our sense of community on everything. On everything. The community mothers, the community dads, the aunts and uncles that were never ours, but kept us walking right. So we have to get it together as a people. But at the same time, what COVID and pollution has taught us, there are outside forces that are putting some things in our bodies and our brains that we have to battle against. I love that Tommy Joshua is growing food, but if the soil is no good, what kind of food are we growing? So, Billy Thrive. Yes, we want all types of things going on up at the closed refinery. We want beautification, but we don't want beautification on top of a Superfund site. Same thing they did in Chester. That stadium is built on top of a Superfund site. The only good thing is, well, I shouldn't say this, but many of us don't hold season tickets. I've never personally been in the soccer field because I can't afford it. So,
how do people reach out to you, Julian?
You can reach me at chesterresidents.org. There's a button there. You can leave a message. You can join our organization. You stay up on top of what we're doing, what actions we have, what all we need to do as a people, because this is not a Chester issue. This is a us issue.
So I'm gonna ask anybody. We have about 2 minutes left. Any frameworks, policy frameworks, activist frameworks that are out in the world that you think would be informative for the local work that we need to undertake? Any cities or regions or large-scale international movements kind of doing it right that we could learn from, that you would offer?
So one thing that I want to say before that happens is no decision about us without us. That's the conversation we really need to start going.
Absolutely.
If any decisions are going to be made, we have to be at the table and hold you accountable if we're not at the table. We've got to pick that up. No decision about us without us.
And us can't be a local elected official speaking on behalf of all of this constituency without ever checking in with the constituency. We got to understand that just because you voted for somebody, you didn't sacrifice your total voice to that person to misrepresent you. And we really got to get that in our brains, I believe, if we're going to really galvanize at the level that we need to.
Right. And so that means that whatever community is being impacted, they have to be at the table, not the representative.
Right. Exactly.
And
they have to be at the table.
It happens in other communities. It happens every day. Every single day. You think they're going to do something up in Chestnut Hill and them people ain't going to be there?
Right.
I don't think so. I do not think so. But we have to take our rightful place, and when our voices are not heard, that's when you start collaboration with other people. Okay? Okay, you view us as being powerless. Okay, well, let me pull in some of your friends who you believe are powerful. So we have to support and collaborate and help each other. Above all, let's go in on the issues of the Green New Deal.
Let's go on in 60 seconds.
In 60 seconds. 60 seconds. There can be no Green New Deal without environmental justice. You can't have a Green New Deal without us writing about environmental justice in the Green New Deal. Bottom line, period.
And that also has to include racial justice. So it really is environmental racism needs to be interrupted in order to facilitate the Green New Deal.
And we're going to close on that point because I think that that's what we have to, that language left, you know, and environmental racism and the equation of this with racial issues. And it needs to be brought back because, again, this is an issue that's impacting Black humanity, and the attempt to take away our humanity is not a current phenomenon. This is a new manifestation of an age-old phenomenon that we have fought and resisted in the past. We know what to do. It's time for us to have the will to do it again because we cannot afford to sacrifice Black humanity to anybody at any cost. So I thank you, Tommy. Oh, Julian, we're going to build. We're going to look forward. I've seen some of you on the battlefield already. Looking forward to joining others. Thank you, WURD Radio. This brings to a close this segment of our conversational, our Eco Summit, our second Eco Summit. Stay locked. We're going to go all day up until 7 p.m., but this closes out the segment on local activism in and around our area, Philadelphia, Chester, the Delaware Valley. Stay tuned and looking forward.
The time is now to put an end to the chronic incompetence of Donald Trump and his League of Liars. Donald Trump makes a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's polarized our country, and his dangerous policies must not continue. Joe Biden has the character, empathy, and experience to lead us through these challenging times. He helped lead the nation out of the 2008 financial crisis into the longest period of economic growth in our history, and he can do it again. As president, he will heal divisions and unite us around the shared values of justice. He'll create opportunities for quality education and good-paying jobs, and he'll build on the Affordable Care Act, not tear it down. While Donald Trump thinks coronavirus and climate change are a hoax, Joe Biden